I'll just bring him into the picture. In the late 1930s, with a lot of Australian wine sent overseas to Britain, and I've heard it expressed that the British bond stores were bulging with Australian wine. They were not big enough to take all the Australian wine, so hogsheads were left out on the wharf. Well, that's all very well. Now the winemakers back here in Australia had done their best. They'd produced their blends for export. They send their wine halfway around the world, and then this sweet wine disease attacks. That goes dog on them. Well, can you imagine a worse nightmare for a winemaker? He's done his best, and this happens. I'm interested in the pH at work, okay, and I had the opportunity with a long weekend to go home to Murray Bridge to my parents' place, and I travelled on the Melbourne Express from Adelaide to Murray Bridge. The express was full. I couldn't get a seat. So I sat in the foyer of the carriage, sitting on my suitcase under that dim yellow light and listening to the clackety-clack, as it used to be with the wheels going over the joints with trains. And I thought, well, this isn't much of an idea. And I remembered I had an interim report from John Fornerson with his research on the bacteria. So I pulled this out of my pocket, and the lattice pH almost jumped off the page. I had a look at this, at the work that John Fornerson had done, and I thought I could use this. And of course, I couldn't get back to work quickly enough. And so, all right, I got hold of brochures of equipment that was available, and I had that on hand. And when the chief, Leslie Penfolds Highlands, came on one of his usual visits, I broached this matter of getting a pH meter. I told him of my vision. I said, I think we can beat this. I think we can get on top of it. Oh, well, he said, you'd better get some information. So I held up 3 brochures. I said, I've done that, Mr. Highland. Which is the best? I said, this one, the Cambridge. Get it. That's all he said. Now, it was expensive. He didn't even ask how much it was, but you can see the wine people were anxious to grasp at any prospect of success. I got this pH meter, and well, there it was on the desk. I was very proud of that, of course. Anyhow, Ray, what are you going to do about it? It's no good just measuring pH. That won't do anything. I'd have to set some standards. So back to Fornerson's work, and I had to decide at what pH will I set as the standard. And from Fornerson's work, I decided on pH 3.80 as the maximum. And now I refer back to what I mentioned earlier. It's a negative index. pH has a negative index, so that pH 3.8 was the maximum that we would tolerate. So I put this into operation and adjusted our wines. And only recently a woman said to me, Ray, what was it like, that eureka moment? And I said, well, there was no eureka moment. I'd made a choice. Now, will it work? And it'll take 1 or 2 years to find out if it did work. Well, okay, it did work, because we didn't have any more spoilage from that bacteria. So that put us on the right track, and that became a standard. And that pH 3.80, as I said, I'd have to make a choice. It worked. I carried that right through all my winemaking for fortified wines. But in due course, of course, with the table wines, we had to set different standards. So I adopted a maximum of 3.60 for the red wines. And that was interesting, tinkering around at the desk with adjusting pHs. And I had a wine that had been filtered. It was clear, but I brought the pH down to 3.6. The wine immediately had a sheen. And that's one of these things that just rubs off. So that became the standard for the red wines. And then, of course, the white wines were down. I went right down to about 3.2. Yeah, so the winemaker today is, as I said before, he can concentrate on the art of winemaking, but at the back of his mind is always that he has to have proper control. And of course pH is one of those controls. And good winemaking practice, that just about sums it up, I think. Good winemaking practice.